Sunday, 11 a.m., CBS Affair. The Broncos will... Fox Affair. Excuse me, you're right about
Fox
that.
Sports!
This is a Fox Sports Affair.
It's a different world
I know,
where
the
everybody
AFC.
gets all the conferences.
Everybody gets everybody now.
Yes.
Yes. Broncos will take on the Houston Texans. Our guest, who works for Fox, he is Daryl Moose Johnston, legendary Dallas Cowboys, and he'll be on the call along with, this is a Kevin Kugler affair, Daryl Moose Johnston. Moose, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for doing this. Moose, give us a little breakdown on this matchup between Denver and Houston. Two outstanding defenses going head-to-head and two offenses that have, been a little up and down as the season has gone on. Kind of compare and contrast these two teams and the seasons they're having.
Yeah, I that's a great summation. I think one of the big things that we've seen through the course of the first 8 weeks of the season in our group has been that chase of complementary football. And I think it's hard at the beginning of the season, especially for Houston. Nick Caley is their new offensive coordinator, so that always takes a little bit of time. Bronco fans know that from the transition to Sean Payton a couple of years ago and, getting that up to speed. So there's been a little bit of change, and with change comes a little bit of patience from the fan base. But I don't know why defenses always seem to be ahead of the curve. We always felt that way going into training camp. The defense was always a step ahead of us. When the season started, the defenses were always a step ahead of the offenses. So I think we're starting to see, both of these offenses finally kind of getting the details of everything. This is only the second year with Bo Nix in Denver, and it sounds like there was, some substantial change, coming into year three. So for Sean's offense, year two with Bo Nix. So, I thought he played very, very well against Dallas last week. CJ played his best game of the season by far against San Francisco last week. So that other part of the matchup that I think is going to be really exciting, because these are two really, really good defenses, is which offense is going to be able to break through. So I think both of them coming off, their best performance of the season so far. So it should be very fun. It should be entertaining.
As an analyst, obviously, you've been breaking down the film all week. We make such a big deal about the sophomore season for a quarterback. We saw it with C.J. Stroud last year. Now Bo Nix is in that boat right now. What are you seeing out of Bo Nix right now in terms of his evolution as a quarterback and of what Sean Payton is asking him to do?
Well, our group was very impressed with Bo last season. We got to do everybody but J.J. McCarthy, who came out of that really, really strong rookie class last season. And, we were obviously Jaden Daniels, won the Offensive Rookie of the Year. But we walked away from our visits with Bo. We did the Broncos versus the Raiders. We did the Broncos versus the Falcons. The Raider prep, you got to see kind of that first moment in Tampa Bay. When he kind of stepped out and had a really good game and could start to build that confidence. So our group really felt that Bo Nix was kind of under the radar when everybody was talking about that rookie class and what was going to be like for season two. So it has been a little bit up and down, and we actually had the opportunity to visit with Bo earlier today during our production meetings, and we asked him that question directly, because everybody always talks about that year two is probably the biggest jump that a good quarterback makes. Things just start to click. You start to understand things. And he was very, he's very composed. He's very confident. You can tell he's a man of very strong faith. And I think that's one of the unique things about both of these quarterbacks. They both have very, very strong faiths. And when you talk to them, they're so composed. They're very mature. And they don't really get rattled. So, I'm waiting for Bo to kind of get into that point where everything kind of clicks and the light bulb goes off and you really start to see the way he played last week. You start to see that more consistently because I think we've been a little bit up and down through the course of the season this year. And it's very similar to what we saw last year as well.
All right, so I'm trying to look it up because I want to ask you about Sean Payton. Did you have any connection to Sean during your Dallas days? Did you guys miss each other? I know you went to 99. When did Sean get there? Do you know him well?
Yeah, I do. I know Sean, more from, broadcasting, having the opportunity to visit with him as an offensive coordinator for a number of years, then the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. So I've gotten to know Sean, very well, based on our jobs, and when we would get to sit down and visit. And then because he was in the Dallas area, for a while, he obviously worked with the Dallas Cowboys for a little bit, but then, towards the end of his time in New Orleans, he had a residence here in the DFW area. So, we would see each other. So, yeah, I've always been a big fan. And you could tell he's one of those guys. He was probably, our Sean McVay back in that era. Him and John Gruden, together, working, grinding. You could tell right away he was going to be, a head coach at some point very, very close in the near future, and have a lot of success. He was just, he's got that mix of being demanding, can make it fun, but be accountable. There's a lot of things in his coaching style that I think are very unique. And they really kind of, work in every era, where you're working with the young men. So, yeah, we knew Sean was going to be he was going to be a heck of a football coach.
All right, so let me ask you this: because he's old school. Frankly, I think all of us are of the age. It's the kind of coach we remember where there's more yelling than maybe loving up. So, were you surprised by the Super Bowl proclamations he made over the summer?
That's probably from his time in Dallas, being around Jerry and Jerry making his Super Bowl proclamations, that he learned that. You have to fill me in exactly what he said.
Well, he just said he thought this team could be. He said he had what was the number 8? 4 teams in his history that could go to the Super Bowl. Obviously, some did, some didn't, but he thought this team could be one. And look, if you don't mind us calling you Moose, this is a team that got kind of smoked in the playoffs, but we were just happy they made it there, right? It was a bad 8-year stretch after Manning left, so Denver's just excited to be back in the dance. I just was surprised the coach would be so open with so many of the media members that he thought that it would be a jump to the Super Bowl versus maybe the next step.
Based on his personality, I can see how he would phrase it the way he phrased it. This is a team that has the potential to go to a Super Bowl, so it's buffered, right? Jerry would just flat out and come out and say in training camp, "We're going to the Super Bowl." It's the Super Bowl or bust. What Sean is saying is as much for the players as it is for anybody else.
Yeah.
For them to hear that from him, as somebody that they respect and who has seen a lot of football and been around a lot of great players and been a part of a lot of great teams, for him to come out and say this group has the same ability that I've seen with 4 other teams that I've been a part of that had that potential to go to a Super Bowl. It's amazing how something that's said, and it could be just a flippant comment, really resonates with a player. And it could be something that somebody says that they don't even remember saying it, but to the person they said it to, it meant the world to them. That's kind of one of those comments in a larger scale that gets everybody's attention in the off season and is like, "Ooh, hey, let's make sure that we're focused here." I think one of the big things for me is understanding the Super Bowl window when it opens, and usually they open when you find that young quarterback, and you have the opportunity for 5 years to be able to play with a really, really good quarterback and put all the key pieces around him and take a shot. I think that is the one that really sold me on the whole window of opportunity to win a championship. And, that's just Sean Payton watching Bo Nix play last season, understanding he's got 4 years. He's going to throw everything he can at this over the next 4 years, to have a shot at winning a Super Bowl championship. And he knows, obviously, how to do it. He knows what it looks like. And so for me, I would say that that's not really kind of inflating everything. I think it's more getting the players' attention that we're closer than you guys think.
Yeah, get a pressure going and let them know that what they're capable of doing if they put in the work. Daryl Moose Johnston is our guest. He'll be calling the game for Fox coming up on Sunday, Broncos and Texans. Moose, how do you think the absence of Patrick Surtain impacts the Denver defense, and how do you think, number one, how do you think that Vance Joseph will adjust, and number two, how does this maybe alter the way that Houston will attack?
Yeah, I think the big thing is, the health of Nico Collins. That it sounds like Nico's going to be back. He had the concussion last week. He missed the San Francisco game. I think if he's not there, it's a completely different mindset for Vance and how he's going to roll out his defense. But with Nico being back in the lineup, I think you do have that, what he refers to as that alpha wide receiver that we would normally put Patrick on. And that allows us to be able to, work our pressures in a way that are very, very unique because of Patrick's skill set to be able to take that one player and really close him down on one half of the field. So you're not able to do that. I'm excited to watch Riley Moss. You got a couple of really nice young players that are out there that have had playing time. I know sometimes, people talk about the nickel corner and the guy that comes in the dime packages, and that's a little bit different than playing on the outside. But I think what you'll see him do is, try to roll everybody in. When you have somebody as good as Patrick, you don't want to put all that pressure on one player and ask him to be the guy that has to go out and stand on that island all by himself all day long. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a mix of a couple of guys kind of holding down the fort out there for Patrick. But it will always be a huge adjustment. He is so talented. I'm not going to say it's the equivalent of losing a quarterback on the offensive side of the ball, but I don't know as good as Patrick is. I think it's fair to say that that's like the San Francisco 49ers without Nick Bosa. It's, the Cleveland Browns without Myles Garrett.
Moose, it's the best player on their team. It alters what they are completely. You're talking about taking the defensive player of the year off the field, and that's where Vance, and you're absolutely right, man. The Nico Collins matchup and whether or not he goes is kind of everything in this game. We were running it down before. The Broncos have not given up a touchdown, Moose, all season long to a number one wide receiver, to an opposing number one wide receiver. Like, that's the impact Surtain has.
Yeah, it's whether it's, Jamar Chase with the Bengals, what he did last week with CD and George Pickens, it's been amazing, the guys that he's run up against and just the confidence he has. It's a huge luxury because it does allow Vance Joseph, who is very, very creative. I love watching, the film, pre-snap on third down and watching the offense try to sort through everything and just how creative he can get, how he can make things look exactly the same but be completely different once that football is snapped. So that's a lot of that credit goes to the fact that Patrick is out there on the edge.
All right, we'll wrap it up on this, but we got to get your opinion because it's kind of been the topic of the week. And Pat said it on his podcast. Aqib Talib has mentioned it. Bomani Jones said something. They're all talking about Riley Moss getting profiled. Do you think he's getting a tougher whistle because he's a white corner? I don't know how else to say it other than that.
We were actually on a call this week where we had some people that I felt comfortable asking the question, and it is one of those really good timing things, and I took advantage of it and brought that up. And the consensus was with a number of talented people that have played the position, with a number of people who are in the rules environment for the NFL, saying that he needs to get his head around sooner. That's his biggest flaw right now, and it's not so much the hands as it is the head. And if he can be a little bit better with his eyes and recognize when that ball's coming in and get that head turned around, maybe some of that incidental contact is not looked upon as pass interference because you're making the attempt to get back and track the football. I think it deserves conversation because it seems like every time you're watching a film, there's a couple that are there. And then when you have some where, like the Giants game, where it's kind of tough to find that, that just adds fuel to the fire. So I hope the one thing for Riley is he continues to play the way he's playing, because I don't think people understand how hard it is to be the opposite guy away from a guy like Patrick Surtain and have all that pressure. There is a lot, and you'll talk to a lot of people that will say, we would love to be able to travel our corner with their number one receiver, but I don't feel comfortable with some of the matchups that will occur outside of that. And to have somebody like Riley there for Vance Joseph to be able to kind of ease those concerns is a huge plus. So I hope he continues to play aggressive like he has played all season, and really go to Vance Joseph and sit down and watch some tape. And where can I start to eliminate these pass interference penalties that are being called on me. And I think one of the good places to start from people who I respect that have played the position is just getting that head turned around a little bit more and not always having your focus on the receiver at the point of the catch.
So the problem is the white of the eyes, not the white of the skin. There you go. Daryl Moose Johnston, everybody. He'll be on the call coming up Sunday, 11 a.m. Mountain Time on Fox down there in Houston as the Broncos will take on the Texans. Kevin Kugler, Daryl Moose Johnston. Daryl Johnston, thank you so much, sir. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have fun, guys.